We're back here at the Republican convention in Cleveland, which you can hear behind me, with the Wall Street Journal columnist Kim Strassel, who is the new book out, The Intimidation Game: How the Left is Silencing Free Speech. Ben Domenech is the publisher of the Federalist, and Matt Schlapp is the chairman of the American Conservative Union. Kim, let me start with you. Mike Pence is now on the ticket. What does that mean?
It's a good thing for Donald Trump in general. This is a guy who's been in Washington, so he's respected by a lot of the leaders that Donald Trump still needs to reassure out there. He is an evangelical Christian. This is a community that Donald Trump really needs to get to come out and vote for him this fall. He's a policy guy, ran the Republican Study Committee, which is something that's really valued by a lot of people out there who care about conservative policy. And he's just an articulate guy as well, too. He's going to be good for getting across Donald Trump's message.
Ben, a lot of the people I talk to go through that list of qualifications and note that that's quite different than Donald Trump. So is this a sign of the breadth of the Republican coalition, or is it a match that might have some difficulty staying together?
I think it's an attempt on the part of the Trump campaign to really normalize him as a candidate, and it's a direct geographic play to compete in the Midwest. I think that Mike Pence is the kind of candidate who's going to help out in some of these Midwestern states where Donald Trump is more competitive than perhaps other Republicans have been. The problem for him is that he is another white guy, a Christian conservative, kind of an old school Republican, Bush era kind of conservative, who may not have enough appeal to help Donald Trump compete in a state like Florida, which could prove more challenging for him.
What do you think about that, Matt? I mean, I talked to one activist in the party, Republican Party, who said they doubled down on white guys with this pick. What does that mean in terms of the map, in terms of outreach, and how the ticket's going to compete in those states we all are so familiar with?
This is one of the ways in which Donald Trump is unconventional. You usually pander to voters. You say, oh, here's where we're demographically weak, so we'll try to make demographic improvements on the ticket. And instead he said, who is the vice president I need to be an effective president? Who can help me kind of go through the Washington dysfunction and try to make sense of it? And who's someone who's got enough government experience, including as an executive, to make the kind of change I want to make? So, yeah, you can look at all the ways on the optics that it might not be perfect, but it's a home run in every other way, and he's going to come out of this convention with conservatives and Republicans behind him like they've never been before.
Ben, Paul Manafort wouldn't buy this idea, but a lot of the people I've talked to keep using the word stabilize, as if the nominee is a volatile mixture and needs a drop of something to... So it's not so much what Mike Pence may do in office, as Matt's points are taken, but it's that he is a signal that Donald Trump has listened to those who've been advising him and saying, we need something a little more solid in the ticket, not something so volatile.
Perhaps he has. I think the problem for him with this Pence pick, though, is that if he hopes to completely lock down people who had objections to Trump within the party, I'm not sure the Pence pick is going to do that. He's normalizing to a certain degree, but for those who have been resistant to Trump to this point, Paul Manafort is very familiar with crushing rebellions of all kinds. And I think in this context, there are a lot of people who still don't like Donald Trump, and even picking someone like Mike Pence is not going to bring them back onto the Republican wagon this time around, particularly swing voters and independents, who he needs to appeal to.
Yeah, only Donald Trump can do that, and I think that that's the thing that the Trump campaign still needs to understand. You look out there, he's unified behind him about 75% of the Republican Party. You need it to be above 90. And Mike Pence is going to help with that a little bit. But that's what this week is going to have to be about for the Trump campaign, is him standing up there on stage saying, I want your vote. I'm going to reassure you on these things and these things and these things. Maybe it's just a question, too, of saying you need to vote for me because we can't afford to have Hillary Clinton president. But whatever that message is, it's got to be where he can get up to that 90%. And then, by the way, he could be in an interesting position because he has pulled a lot of people from outside the party in as well, too, that are behind him.
John.
But this is unification.
John, if I could just say, I have people on the board, of which I'm the chairman, who have called me since the Pence pick, who were in the never Trump kind of camp, and they've said this reassures me enough not only to support Donald Trump, some of them are getting on airplanes and coming here. I've talked to conservatives across the country, but this is exactly the type of pick that they wanted to see him make, because he's keeping the trust with those primary voters when he said, I'm going to govern on these conservative values. So this is, I have anecdotal evidence that this is happening across the country.
The Mike Pence pick does not change the fact that the Republican Party is now the party of Donald Trump.